very thankful to the Lord for this opportunity to be on the other side of Australia and be presenting the Word of God to some of you that I've known before and some first time that I see your face here today. And I pray that this morning as we open the Word of God that we each may receive the blessing that He wishes to impart to us. Our key text was from James 1 verse 25. And the key thought I want to bring to your attention there was 4 words. Let us turn to that passage, James 1 and verse 25. And the 4 words that I want to bring to your attention will be the main thought that we'll be considering this morning. James 1 verse 25. The Apostle James says something very interesting in regards to the law of God. Verse 25, he says, "But whosoever looketh into the perfect law of liberty." And these 4 words I want you to think about this morning as we go through our study. The perfect law of liberty. Now to begin with, that might almost be a contradiction just within those 4 words. Law and liberty. Often we think about law as being anything but giving liberty. But this morning I want to contemplate this thought. And I'm going to begin by showing you some pictures. And as we go through about 8 pictures, I want you to think about each one and to tell me at the end, what do they have in common and what comes to your mind? All these pictures are related to traffic. We're very familiar with all these things that we've seen here, whether you're in Sydney or whether you're in WA, we have them everywhere. There's something that's very important. But what comes to your mind when you see these things? Now, maybe I should be talking more to the younger people that have just got their license. Particularly young boys. I know when I was a young boy, these things meant something to me. And it wasn't a very nice thing always. When you come to a set of lights and it's just gone orange or amber and the red is about to go, what do you think? What's the first thing you think? Should I go through? Why does it have to be orange? I was, racing my mate, or we were trying to get somewhere on time. Or you see a stop sign. What does a stop sign usually mean when you come to an intersection? Well, you are supposed to actually bring the wheels to an absolute dead stop and hold for 3 seconds. Many times we use stop signs as giveaways. But a stop sign brings up similar thoughts to what a red light or a no U-turn. Now, I don't know here in WA, but in Victoria, where I originally come from, you can do a U-turn at any intersection unless it's signed no U-turn. But in New South Wales, you get a fine if you do that. I don't know here in WA. But these signs bring something to my mind, particularly as a young person. You've got your license, you just want to go. These signs do what? What do you feel like they do to you? They bring restriction in some way. Just when you're running out of time, the clock's ticking away, and you're going to be late for your first job interview. And it's red. Or it's a stop sign. Or it's a one-way street. All you're thinking about is, why did it have to be there? I needed to go down there. I needed to turn left here. I needed to turn right. Restrictions. Yet these restrictions, what seem to be in some cases restrictions, bring thousands and millions of people to and from work, from shopping, from school, every day safely. These restrictions, what seem to be restrictions, prevent things from like this happening. Or, in a worst case, prevent some of these things happening. Now, this might have just started off with someone disobeying one of those restrictions. They were running late, so they went over the speed limit. It was a bit wet and they slipped out, and it created this. Restrictions seem to take away liberty. Yet if we were to consider that a restriction disobeyed caused this, what would we think when we come to think about restriction or liberty? Let's have a look at another concept here. The parent is about to cross the road, and for the 100th time she tells her children, "You must hold my hand before we cross." And the children are complaining, "I'm big enough now, look, I've been to school, I should be able to do this on my own." To the child, it's a restriction. He doesn't have freedom. Why does he have to hold mummy's hand? And yet to the parent, it's to bring safety, bring liberty, bring freedom. Because the parent knows that without these restrictions, this might happen. And in worst case, this. So what seemingly might be a restriction can be, in reality, freedom or liberty. Restriction sometimes actually equals liberty. And is not what it first appears. Now, as human beings, we have a tendency to want to have freedom. We love to have the feeling of being unrestricted, to have no limits, especially young people, no limits. As you grow up as a youth and adolescent, teenager, parents always seem to put all these restrictions all around you. And as you get older and you reach certain ages, you feel like these restrictions are being lifted now. You move out of home and you feel like the world is open before you. And then you find things like police and order, law and other things, and they seem like they're again restricting you. But in reality, not all restrictions bring a loss of freedom. You know, there's something interesting about human beings. As much as we love freedom, as much as we love being unrestricted, not held back, human beings do something very, very strange. At a certain time in many people's life, they choose voluntarily to make one of the greatest restrictions that a human being can impose upon himself. Many times we think of religion as restriction. Many times we think of church as a list of what you can and what you can't do. You can, you can't, you can't, you can, you can. More often we think of it as you can't or you have to do. But in the same way, are these restrictions what seem to be restrictions at the first glance? Are they really restrictions? Or do they actually give greater liberty? Sometimes young people think of religion and church, and especially Sabbath, like this. You can't sit down, you can't stand up, you can't use your phone, you can't talk about certain things, you can't eat at a certain time, you can't do anything. And many times young people grow up in the church and think religion is this, restriction. Am I right? Or you've never felt this way before? Speaking from myself, growing up, 3 other brothers, this is what it feels like sometimes. And even as an adult, sometimes you feel like that you just can't do certain things that you otherwise would love to do. And so that would come under the category of restriction. You feel like you're being restricted. And yet, many of us will never give up our religion, although we feel that it is restrictive. And we carry it through life like a chain and ball strapped to our ankle, holding us back, yet we will not let it go. Because we're afraid of that. We don't want to go there. And so we go through life unhappy, carrying these restrictions, yet not wanting to give them up, because we're afraid. We're afraid that if we might get rid of this, get rid of the restriction, get rid of that crutch. Many people in the world call Christianity a crutch. We're afraid if we get rid of this, we're going to die in the flames of hell. And so we live a miserable Christian life. Many Christians live like this. You only have to go out, and not only in our church, but in every church. Christians are living like this. Some churches have more restrictions, some have seemingly less. Some that have less we call liberal. They just let everything go. So there's not as many restrictions. But many times churches have restrictions. Are you living a Christian experience like this? Is your Christian experience one of routine, of form, one where you feel like there are certain restrictions that your natural heart would otherwise do certain other things, except you're restricted? You can't say certain things because someone might hear you and tell the church. You can't do certain things because no one does that on Sabbath. You can't speak about certain things. So many things restrict us. And this Christian experience is a miserable experience. And I believe everyone here knows what I'm talking about. I believe that we've, in some point in our life, experienced this. But we're afraid of this, so we won't let it go. Now, as I mentioned before, human beings do something very, very interesting. Despite our desire for freedom and not to be restricted or held back, we do this at a certain age. Young people get together and find someone that seems to be a match. And for some strange reason, they sign a piece of paper that makes restrictions to the rest of their life. Why would anyone do that? This is like crazy. People go and sign their name to a piece of paper that restricts them. Restricts the young man from going out any time of night to parties and dating any girl. It restricts the woman from going out and doing whatever she wants, seeing other guys, and whatever might be the case. The life that was before is different after you sign that paper. And then when children come along, even more restrictions. And yet people do it time and time again for the last 6,000 years. Why? Why would people do this to themselves? If restriction brings unhappiness, if restriction takes away freedom, why do people voluntarily do this? What are they hoping for in bringing about restriction? What are they hoping for? They're searching for something. A greater happiness than when they were single, yeah? Why else would they do it? Like, it's crazy to restrict yourself if you weren't looking for something or hoping for something even better. But many people today do that. Now, have you ever gone to a wedding when the minister's up the front and he says, "I now pronounce you husband and wife"? Have you ever seen a sad face from the couple? Put your hand up. Who's seen one? There might be exceptions. But generally, you don't see that sort of thing. The biggest smile usually and the most vibrant happiness, and yet they've just signed their life sentence for restrictions. And yet they seem to be happy. What makes the difference? Restriction, they're adding restriction to their life, yet they seem happy about it. And if you were to think about marriage, the wedding vows, what people actually do to themselves, it would actually, if you were to draw, it would look like that. Now, in any other circumstances, you wouldn't want to be in that condition, especially if there was a blue uniform on the guy. But in a marriage relationship, the couple actually restrict themselves to each other for the rest of their lives. Bind themselves together, solely for each other, for nobody else. And they're happy. Strange, if we were studying human beings outside of the human being realm, like we do plants and animals, we would think this is a strange phenomenon of human beings. And yet, they're happy. Now, many times we think of Christianity as being restrictive, right? Young people, you talk to young people before they get married or before they find a partner that interests them. They think, why would you get married? You can't do this and you can't do that. To a young person, single, not interested in getting married, it is restrictive. And yet to a couple that are married, it's not restrictive at all. But what happens about 10 years later? Statistics tell us, not even 10 years, 5 years. In most marriages, what happens? Usually divorce. And why do they divorce? Because it become restrictive. All of a sudden, what used to be bringing so much happiness is now just completely the opposite. It brings misery and restriction, and she's always complaining, and he never does what I ask, and the list goes on. Something changes in that relationship. Something leaves the picture that was there to begin with, that made the difference between whether something is considered to be a restriction or considered to bring more happiness. And Christianity, that's what happens, unfortunately. To begin with, someone comes and they meet Jesus Christ. And I tell you, you've never met a Christian till you've met someone that's just met Jesus Christ. They are the most happy people, the most willing to sacrifice, the most willing to tell others. Am I right? Those that have just met Jesus usually are not afraid to tell others. But people like us in the church for 20 years or 30 years, whatever it might be, we begin to become afraid of telling others. Something changes. And just like the relationship between a husband and wife change over time, when one factor is removed out of the picture. In Christianity, what first is not a restriction, what first I'm willing to give up to become part of this religion, now becomes something that drags on my ankle, that I take through the rest of my life and fearful of giving it up. But yet it holds me back. I'm restricted. What is missing? Something has been taken out of the equation. And this is, I find, in every experience of a Christian. The factor that makes the difference, whether you're a happy Christian or a miserable Christian, whether there is a successful marriage or there is an unsuccessful marriage, whether there is a successful relationship or unsuccessful relationship. Something that the Bible talks about a lot, and that is love. This 4-letter word makes the difference between whether something seems to be a restriction or whether something actually gives greater happiness, in the case of a wedding, or in Christianity brings freedom. In our Christian experience, is this element missing? Has this element left our experience, our relationship with Christ, and the reason why we find religion restrictive? Restriction or liberty is a question. How do we view things? How do we view our Christian experience? Is it actually restricting us, or do we feel that it brings liberty? The Apostle James, in our key text, he refers to the law as what? Perfect law of liberty. James understood that what seems to be a restriction, the 10 Commandments, actually is something that gives liberty and freedom. Now I want you to open your Bibles. This is the end of our slides. And I want to take you through a few Bible texts. Now follow me on these because it's very important. Why do many people believe that religion is restrictive? What are they missing? Now, can you love somebody you do not know? If you've never met them, you've heard about them, but you've never met them, can you genuinely have love for someone you've never met? It doesn't happen. We know that. We're human beings. We have the capacity to love, and we know this does not happen. If we have never met Jesus Christ, truly, we will never be able to love Him. And if you do not have love, then everything appears to be restriction, right? Turn with me to the book of Genesis. Where did this idea that God is restrictive come from? Who said that religion is restrictive to begin with? Turn with me to Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to read verse 1, 2, and 3. And I want to take you to the first place where the picture of God being restrictive is recorded. Right back in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, we first find this idea. Verse 3, from verse 1, chapter 3, down to verse 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than the beasts of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, now who is the serpent here? Who is speaking through the serpent? Satan. So Satan here now says to the woman, and the woman is who? Eve. He says to her, now listen here, you might not have ever noticed this before, but listen to the words that he utters to Eve. Now tell me, after I read them, tell me, are they restrictive or give freedom? The serpent says to Eve, Satan speaks to Eve and says, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Tell me, what do those few words say to you? What was Satan implying? What was Satan saying? Has God said you can't eat anything in this garden, on any tree? You'll notice that Eve understood what he was implying because of her answer. Read with me verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of all the fruit, except what? The one in the middle of the garden. Satan here implies, has God restricted you to, you've got no food? Like he's given you nothing? No tree? He says, no, we can eat everything except one. This idea that God and religion and Christianity is restrictive begins right there with who? With Satan. Now, let me ask you the question. We are 6,000 years later. We're looking back on the history of the Garden of Eden. Was God being restrictive in holding back that tree? Or was he bringing freedom? What was it? God actually was giving liberty and freedom. Yet Satan implied that God was trying to restrict, hold back, take away from their liberty. This principle Satan has used down through the ages to paint an awful, ugly picture of what God is, or what he wants us to believe God is. Restrictive, holding back, taking away from our freedom because he's sovereign God and he has power to do so. In Matthew chapter 24, we'll turn there now, Matthew chapter 24 and verse 12, Jesus, looking down into the future, foretold the condition of the world. And he foretold this condition that would be in the last days. We all know that Matthew chapter 24 is talking about the events that would lead up to his second coming. Disciples asked that question, what will be those signs? And one of those signs Jesus says here in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 12. And we find it everywhere today. You see it within families, you see it within churches, Christianity, you see it in relationships, you find it everywhere. And it says here in 24 and verse 12, Jesus says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax what? Cold. What will happen to love in the end time? What happens to it? It will die away. And when you take love out of the picture, you have broken homes, you have broken relationships with friends, family. You have Christianity that seems restrictive, and you find people turning to atheism, materialism, everything but God. Because God and religion is all restrictive, because some element has been ripped out from underneath the principle of God's kingdom. And that is the principle of love. How do we tell then if our relationships or our experience as a Christian is missing that element of love? What would be an easy way to tell? Turn with me. We don't have to guess. John chapter 14 verse 23 and 24 tells us. John chapter 14 verse 23 and 24. Now I need you to notice carefully again, because we're going to be looking at a few points within these verses that give us some clues to how you might determine whether that element is missing from your experience. John chapter 14, 23 and 24. Jesus answered and said unto him, if a man love me, notice here he's talking about a relationship between him and God. If a man love me, he will keep my words. How do you tell if someone loves God? According to Jesus' words here, how can you tell? He keeps my words. Right? We'll keep going. And my Father will love him, and he will come unto him and make him our abode with him. Verse 24. Now on the opposite side of the scale, he that loveth me not, what does that person do? A person that does not love God, what will he do? What will he be seen in his life? He that loveth me not, keepeth not my sayings. So, on one hand, if we say we love God, what should be the natural result of that? We'll keep His sayings. In a marriage relationship, I'm referring back to this because the Bible uses this analogy between a woman and a man, the same as He does between Christ and His people, His church. And the main element that pulls them both together is not the commonality, because males and females are completely different. It's not that. It's not the fact that they might like doing the same thing, because that might last for a little while. But it's the principle of love that brings people together. And the same in our experience with Jesus Christ. It's the principle of love that will bring human beings that are alienated from God and bring them in harmony with Jesus Christ so they have a relationship that is amazing. So those that love keep His sayings. Those that do not love will not keep His sayings. That's what Jesus said. That's how we can determine. In our Christian experience, ask yourself that question. I say I love God. As a Christian, I say I love God. But does my life reveal that? Can I say I love God, yet when it comes down to it, can I say that I keep all His sayings? Or there's some few that just don't sort of fit well and I just put them under the bed so I don't remember or don't hear them or don't talk about them. Turn with me to 1 John 5 and verse 3. Now, this is a very important text because this gives us a clue. When we have an experience with Jesus Christ, where love is the fundamental principle that brings us together, then His sayings will become not restrictions, but something else. Notice here what it says in 1 John 5 and verse 3. 1 John 5 and verse 3. For this is the love of God. Notice how he begins this verse. This is the love of God, that we keep His commandments. And now notice the last part of this verse. And His commandments are not what? What's a modern word for what we would use today? Grievous. What would we say? What's grievous mean? Burdensome. It's something that would annoy you. It just hangs you back, holds you down. When keeping the commandments, keeping the sayings of Jesus Christ, become not grievous, so they're a pleasure, we enjoy doing them, what does that mean about our relationship? Remember what the first part of the text says? For this is the love of God. When our experience is that we enjoy obeying the Word of God, His sayings, His commandments. When we find pleasure in doing that, what does it mean about our relationship? That the principle of love, not our love, but this is the love of God, divine love, is in our heart, in that relationship, is the fundamental principle in that relationship between us and Jesus Christ. When the commandments, what seemingly are restrictions, become an enjoyment, just like that example of the husband and wife. What appears to be restrictions to hold them back, taking away their freedom, when they have love for one another, those restrictions seem like nothing. Restrictions are completely removed. They don't appear to be restrictions. They appear to be steps in bringing greater and more happiness. And that's the same with our Christian experience. Now, many times, particularly for young people, as we're growing up, and if we're brought up in a Christian environment, as we mentioned before, Christianity is a bit restrictive. But our parents tell us we should do it, and so we do it. Sometimes we sneak a few wrong things, no one knows. But sometimes an older person will come and say, what you've done is wrong. You get caught out. And we try to say, many times young people will say this, not young people, but older people too. They'll say, show me where it's written that I can't do that. And there's many things that when you grow up in the church, we do, that is not directly written down, thou shalt not do this and this and this. And the young people say, show me where it's exactly written. And many times you show them a verse and say, it's not those words. The principle is missing in that experience. The principle of love is missing because if you're in a relationship where love is the fundamental principle, love is the basis of the relationship itself, notice here what Paul says will be the experience. Paul tells us here in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 10, Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 10, that we will be doing much more than just looking for where it says, it is written, thou shalt not, or thou shalt do. We'll go way beyond that. Ephesians 5, verse 10. Very small verse. Verse 10 says, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. Now I looked that up in another translation, just to get some other, what is the thought there? What is a more modern English way of putting that verse? In the New Living Translation, it renders it this way, carefully determining what pleases God. Same thing, if you think about it. It's just more modern English. Proving, this is an old word to determine, search out, seek. Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. In our experience, can you say that you enjoy seeking out what pleases God? Or are we only looking for what is directly written down that says you must and must not do? And we'll just live our Christian experience just to that level. Because if that is our experience, then something is missing. Something is missing in that experience. And that is the fundamental principle of love. Verse 17, Paul goes on. He says, wherefore, be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Paul admonishes us here that we should have an experience where we will diligently search the Word of God to find out what really pleases Him. What can I do that will bring pleasure to God? When young people get married, for the first year or two, or even before they get married, when they're going out and they're preparing, they're engaged, that's generally what happens to young people. They when they're not together, they're in their separate homes, they're thinking, what can I do to make the other one happy? That is a completely different experience to a couple that are ready to divorce. What are they thinking? How can I pay them back for what they've done to me? The thing she said to me, you know what, I'm going to do something that's going to hurt her or hurt him. Complete difference, because only one thing is missing. Same individuals, it's not two different people, but the principle of love. There was a marriage counsellor that had done much study and was aiming to be one of the best marriage counsellors he could be. And he'd come to the conclusion, after going through and getting many degrees and masters in psychology and counselling and all these things, he come to the understanding that there was only one thing that made the difference between someone in a successful marriage and someone that were on the brink of divorce. And that was, one are in love and the others are out of love, if you can put it that way. One couple have lost love and the other ones had found it. And so he decided that from that point on in his practice, when people would come that had marriage issues on the brink of divorce, that he only had one objective, and that was to get them to fall in love with each other. And every time he could do that, divorce went out the window. No one was thinking of divorce no one thinks of divorce when you're in love. No one thinks of hurting someone else when you love them. Do you ever hurt your children, those that are parents, if you love them? We don't even perceive that sort of thing. Yet the only difference that in a relationship is that love. One goes from hurting each other to looking out for their best interest. And Paul admonishes us here through the book of Ephesians that we are to have this relationship with Jesus Christ, where we are not only looking for, thus saith the Lord, such and such is written, but we will search the Scriptures to find out what we can do beyond what's written to please God. And Christianity takes a whole new perspective when we look at it in that way. When our relationship is based on that, on the principle of love. This is the problem amongst Christianity as a whole. You go anywhere and you'll find the same thing. Something is missing. Jesus said, referring to the last days, Matthew chapter 24, verse 12, the love of many shall wax cold. That's the problem today. That relationship that's based on love is missing. We have relationships today. We say we're Christian. We profess Christianity. We're baptized. We take our name on the church roll. And we say we're Christians. Yet we're missing the most important thing that could make that experience truly wonderful. Paul continues on in Colossians and further on, but we're running out of time, admonishing us to have an experience where we will seek to please God. Not only what's written, but genuinely search out. But that desire to please God only comes from a relationship that's built on love. I believe today many people are searching for love. Some people search for it in parties, in relationships, in drugs, in alcohol, invention, adrenaline, enthusiasm, motor sports. Young people in particular, as they get out, leave home, they're looking for something. And God has created human beings for capacity to love and be loved. And we search the world over to try and find that fulfillment. And many times we search blindly, grasping for what we think will bring happiness and complete fulfillment, only to find that it's empty promises and in the end bites us like a serpent. The principle of love is found from Genesis to the book of Revelation. The principle of love divides the kingdom of God and the kingdom of this world. The principle of love is found in God's kingdom. The principle of selfishness is found in the kingdom of this world. And we're admonished to separate ourselves from this world. The Apostle John in the book of 1 John says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. Any man that loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Because the principle of love and the principle of the world are completely opposite to each other. This is why when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, he said, you cannot enter into the kingdom until a complete change has been taken place in your life. I know my experience with my little son, that he is not naturally born to be unselfish. That has to be taught. That's something that needs to be learned. Why is that? Why, as children, do we grow up and naturally we're selfish? Why? Because we are born in iniquity. And we need a complete transformation of life to be able to experience the kingdom of God. And let me tell you, if we haven't experienced a relationship with Jesus Christ based on that principle of love, divine love, pure, unrestricted love, our Christian experience will never be the same again. Christ wants to take us, in our experience, places we've never dreamed of going. The question is, have we had that experience, a relationship built on love? Have you had that experience in your life when nothing seems too hard for Christ? Would you be willing to give up the world to please God? This is the difference between happiness in Christianity and a miserable Christian. And so I'd like to invite you to come next week as we will contemplate this search for love. Next week we will begin a series in search of love. And we'll go through the Bible, go through many people's experience, and look at what really love is. How do you define love? How can we be a recipient of that love? Human love compared to God's love. Restrictions or liberty. So, come next week and we'll find out, as we begin a series in searching for love, many things appear to bring us happiness, but only bring sadness and misery at the end. But God is offering something far greater than we've ever experienced. And it's all in here. All written down through thousands of years. God's love letter to us. I pray God will help us. And as we leave, ask yourself this question. As you contemplate these thoughts for today, do I have an experience with Jesus Christ based upon the principle of love? May God help us.